So today we're going to talk about how to stop having good and bad days. And I put that in quotation marks because what we tend to do when we have good or bad days is label our day from the start, or label our day at the end of the day and say, well, today was just a really good day, or today was just a really bad day. And so what do I mean by stop having good and bad days? No, I don't mean living in la la land and pretending like nothing is wrong or suppressing emotions that you might be having to the point that you become a shell and have a hardened heart. But what I mean by this is to get out of the context of your life always having to be good or bad, worthy or unworthy, content or discontent. It's so easy for us to put labels on things. And the reason why I try to avoid labeling things is because when we label things, we're teaching our mind that this equals that. And when that takes place, you ingrain in your brain a belief about what your thoughts are when it comes to a person that you may be thinking about, a particular part of your day that you might be referencing, who you're with, what you're having to do that day. And so every time you go to be around that person, do that thing at work, spend time with these people, go and do this activity, you equate it to something that you've labeled it in the past. And the label in the past might have not even been relative or relevant to that thing or that person. It just maybe was a culmination of a bunch of things that day, and you just felt maybe aggravated. So maybe you were feeling really aggravated when you had this secondary conversation with the person, and now you kind of associate being aggravated talking to this one person, or maybe you feel aggravated doing this one task that you have to get done for your job, and it just always aggravates you. But it could have been established in your mind that that's an aggravation because you were equating it to a feeling that you were having that quite possibly didn't have anything to do with that person or that circumstance. And so what this has done for me when I practice really trying not to label a day good or bad, it just keeps me in a much more mindful place and mindset throughout my day. So I don't know about you all, but I'm not inherently I don't wake up with a ton of optimism and I'm ready for my day, like the elf, okay? The movie Will Ferrell Elf, I just think of him because he's the pinnacle of he's just exuding just complete oblivious nature of joy and happiness all the time for, just as soon as he wakes up. That's not inherently my personality. Usually it's a culmination of things that in my mind ramp me up to be oh, today was a good day. But I don't want to be that type of person because I really would like to wake up like the elf every day and just be so ecstatic about life and everything that's going on in it that I have this perception of joy and contentment and hopeful excitement, And so what we have to do is we have to really train our brain to not jump to a conclusion. Don't jump to a conclusion that your day is going to be bad because you have 4 calls in the morning, an appointment you have to rush to, you have to talk to this one person that you just don't enjoy talking to, family member, work, colleague, whatever it might be. Don't set yourself up with assumptions or labels before it even occurs, because you're just training your mind now that every time you go to do that task, or every time you go to that appointment, or every time you have 4 things to do in the morning instead of nothing, you've told yourself today is a stressful, bad, overwhelming day. So in order to stop having those days, you have to stop thinking that way. And I know that's easier said than done, but there are ways to do this. Number 1, you have to remind yourself that emotions are not permanent things. They are not characteristics. They are emotions, which means they are temporary. They come and go. They ebb and flow. They are high and low. They are good, they're bad. So they're everything and the in between. So if you're frustrated, it doesn't mean that your entire job is frustrating, or your entire relationship is frustrating, or this entire goal you're trying to achieve is just out of sight, can't be done, right? So you want to continually train your mind to not allow emotions to label and dictate your actions and how you're feeling. So allow yourself to feel the emotion, but don't allow yourself to make it a connection or a bridge to a circumstance or a situation, because emotions are not permanent. So another way to think about this is, saying I am statements like, I am impatient. I'm an impatient person. I am never on time. I am, sad when I have to when I'm dealing with this person, or I'm angry that I have to go and do this part of my job, or whatever it is. You're telling yourself that you are these things. So when these things come in front of you and they're part of your daily interaction, guess what? You're going to feel those. Your brain is very smart in that respect. Your brain literally has been able to compartmentalize and trace every single interaction and thing you've ever done in your life. And I know that sounds outrageously bizarre and not possible, but it is true. Your brain can literally recall everything. It's just we haven't trained our brains to access that. So anytime you're thinking, I'm really angry, I'm really upset, and you're like, say you're having a conversation with a person. This is just an easy way to give you an example. Say you're on the phone with this person and they're asking you 1,000 questions. They're bringing up things that you don't want to talk about. Maybe they're criticizing you in some way, and you're getting agitated. You're getting stressed, anxious, annoyed talking to this person. And so you start telling yourself, because your brain wants to have a reason for that. And sometimes we just jump to the conclusion that it's because we're doing this thing right now. Well, this person's aggravating me. When really it could have been that, like, you stubbed your toe earlier. I always joke that bad things happen in threes. You stubbed your toe earlier, your dishwasher leaked all over the floor, and, you're running behind on your day. And then this person calls and is asking you a bunch of questions, and you're like, this is so annoying. Well, then your brain associates this phone call, this annoying feeling, with this person. So then it kind of becomes a snowball effect. Every time this person calls, you kind of get that pit in your stomach. You're like, oh, I don't want to talk to them. Like, all they do is ask me questions every time they call, which isn't true. Sometimes we would like to think in extremes, but that's not always the case. And that's an argument, Adam will make to me and I'll make to Adam, the whole adage, well, you always leave your towel on the floor. It's like we jump to extremes, right? And so your brain can do that, and your brain will match what you're feeling with that thing. So the biggest way to handle this is, okay, you're feeling frustrated. Tell yourself, I'm frustrated right now. Why am I frustrated? Think back to why are you frustrated? If you can ask yourself why, sometimes you have to ask yourself why 5 or 7 times to really get to the root. Okay, I'm frustrated because I don't want to be on the phone. Why don't I want to be on the phone? Because I'm running late for this appointment. Why are you running late for this appointment? Because I couldn't find my keys. Why couldn't you find your keys? Because I left them in my jacket instead of putting them on the table. Okay, well, that's why I'm so frustrated right now. It's because I'm disappointed with myself, So ask yourself why a few times to get to the root. And when you start training your brain to do that, you can get to it really quickly. And you can start recognizing yourself. You can start recognizing after you found your keys, you're like, okay, that was very frustrating. You can already jump a couple of steps ahead, because if you don't work through it right then, later in your day, it's going to bubble up, the frustration, and you're going to associate it with something it doesn't belong associated with, right? So you can just go ahead and tell yourself, oh my gosh, that was so frustrating. I couldn't find my keys. Okay, next time I'm going to remember I have to take my keys out of my jacket and put them on the table so they're always there like they usually always are, right? And then you just negate that emotion. It goes away. You've felt it, you've dealt with it, it's gone. So then it doesn't get associated with other things going on in your day. So this is very important when it comes to having good days and bad days, because it really is just assumptions, expectations, and all the thoughts that you're thinking surrounding them, and all those feelings that they're bringing up. So if you learn to manage your feelings, allow yourself to feel them, but then ask yourself why, work through that so you're not associating just big things or relationships or people or work or things like that with things that are negative feelings, because then every time you go to do them, or every time you go to interact or talk or whatever, you're going to have these feelings and emotions that just trigger you into having negative feelings about your entire day, right? So this is just something I wanted to help you with, because I know for myself, I've had to talk myself into this. I've had to work through my own mindset and learn to accept an emotion for what it is, but then let it go so it's not so pervasive that it ruins my whole day or ruins my next 10 interactions or my next 10 phone calls or next 10 emails or whatever it is. Get to the root, feel it, deal with it, and move forward. And that way you're not going to associate one little trigger with an entirely bad day. And then I just want to tell you, like, it seems kind of fluffery to categorize that, or, you know, categorize your life, you know, good or bad days, or not, you know, or not doing it at all. But I think the whole point of this is to just have good mental checks in place, because I know for me, a person who's dealt with OCD and depression and anxiety, you know, those things manifest over time and they build upon little things. Sure, a big traumatic event can cause an onset of it, but over the course of my life, the more times that those have become part of my life and my season have been build up of little things, little choices, little actions, little negativity things that just build and build and build and become, you know, a mountain to have to deal with and to climb. So it's important that we just learn to emotionally be intelligent and smart, learn ourselves enough to know like what's going to trigger us, what's going to bother us, and asking that question of why, because it helps you get to the center of it, grow, like work through that, deal with it, and grow from it. So you can really mitigate a lot of hurt and pain and angst just by understanding that your brain is triggering a bunch of emotions that you've built up in the past to compound, and you can nip it. You can stop it. You can stop it by thinking a completely and utterly opposite thought. You can literally say to yourself out loud, I'm not thinking about this right now because that's not the truth. And then asking yourself why? If you have to ask it 5 times, but get to the center of it. And then that is the cause. And if it's something that you can't change, like taking your keys out of your jacket and putting it on the table, and it's more serious, it's more of a relationship issue or a heart problem like jealousy or resentment or grief or bitterness, those are things to pray over. That question why helps you understand what can I pray about? What can I bring before the Lord? And guess what? He's going to reveal that to you. But you have to just not be on autopilot. It's easy to be on autopilot. It's easy to go through our days and do the same activities and make the same choices and do the same thing and talk to the same people and have the same emotions and the same feelings and the same opinions. It takes work to change it. But when you change it, that's when you start living a new life. You start having new mercies every morning and a renewed mind that's grounded and focused and not driven by all these ancillary things or bright emotions, bright feelings that are just instantaneous because of something that's setting you off. You can really be driven by God's heart, God's knowledge, God's wisdom, and that's a much better, more contentful, joyful place to be. So that's, my heart in all this is helping you just try to have a healthy mindset so that you're really working on the core things that you do have the capability of changing and the power of prayer on your side to get you through it. So good and bad days, yeah, crummy things are going to happen, but it's about your response to them. It's about allowing yourself to understand what is making you mad. Sometimes you need to write it out. Put why at the top and make a list of things. Talk it out with someone that you love and you trust. Whatever it is, give yourself the moment to process it, and you will see a huge difference in this up and down roller coaster of emotions, of anxiety, of depression, of good and bad, and being able to truly cut through the labeling and just remain mindful and in a much healthier state of mind, because that's the better place to operate from. And when we're grounded in that and we're growing in our relationship with Christ through prayer and really praying about the root of things and not just the shallow surface level of things change big time. So I hope that's an encouragement to you today, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye for now.